And hello, good people of the internet. It is I, Tommy Kelly, and this is Adventures in Woo Woo. And in this episode, I just want to talk a bit about the idea of what if after this kind of apocalypse, the semi-apocalypse that we're going through, everything kind of returns to normal, or some form of normal, or just goes back to the way it kind of was for the most part, rather than this idea that we have that we're going into a new world, or things are going to change. What if none of it changes? And how horrifying an idea that is. I said in a previous video that I find the weekend an awful lot harder to keep upbeat and positive than I do during the week, and I can't really find the exact reason for that because I'm not exposed. I'm not exposed myself to news at the weekend that I wouldn't normally do, or I'm not obviously not talking to different people than I was during the day or anything, or during the week. But I don't know. But this weekend was quite intense, and it felt like something shifted, and I don't know if that's just cabin fever. I don't know if that's just the where we are in the timeline in the lockdown, and things are really getting to me, or if it's just my weekend thing. But a number of people, by a number of people I mean less than 5, but it's a significant number of people to have mentioned the same thing, also noticed as if something had changed. Some around Saturday night, someone else mentioned it was last week, but this kind of thing that something has, there's a disturbance in the force. And it's not that it's a doom thing. It's not as if something really negative is about to happen, like the calm before the storm. We're now getting into the storm. It's more, for the most part, although some people do still have their doom glasses on, including myself, depending on the morning. It's more this kind of feeling that it's the end of the summer and that we have to, go back to school, or it's the end of the holidays and we have to go back to work. It's not that there's something really like doom or apocalypse about going back to work, going back to school. It's just the end of the holidays. It's like the end of the energy of this thing, as if whatever was going on has happened and now we're getting into the kind of cleanup state. Now I know not everywhere it's like that, because the States are definitely a couple of weeks different from us. They're kind of getting into the panic, I suppose, big time, and getting themselves together that we kind of had in Ireland and Europe a fortnight ago, 3 weeks ago, or whatever. But it's an interesting type of thing to have a number of people to comment it on. So I don't really know what that is, but I just thought I'd say it just in case in the future people point out, oh yes, Tommy was right on that. Everything changed around that date. How wonderful he is of a prophet. Just mostly just trying to be honest with my feelings and how I'm feeling and what's going on around me. Didn't really try to be any sort of prophetic type thing. But what happened then was that I woke up this morning. No, I'll go back to the story a bit. Last week, I made a video that was about how effective is magic in healing. And I talked about the rash in my eye and how that I'd done all the magic and while it had an effect, didn't get rid of it. And it was antibiotics that finally got rid of it. And it's gone a number of weeks. Nearly literally the next day, the rash came back. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's not back in a way. It's a large area that's kind of... it's not that bad, but it's over a large area. And I was just like, what is that about? That's very weird that happened literally after I'm saying it. And I have had experiences, of course, where you say something or you express some sort of gratitude for something and then it seems to be immediately taken away from you. And I find that very odd, to the point that sometimes I get a bit scared. Not scared, it's too extreme. I get a bit concerned about saying things out loud in case, the great universe is listening, goes, oh no, you weren't meant to have that. Let's have that back, or something like that. And I'm sure there's shadow aspects going on there, and self-fulfilling prophecies and blah, 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 and all of this type of stuff. But it is an interesting type of sync. And if you come from a magic kind of point of view, there is no coincidences and you have to look at these type of things. So what I think the kind of magical lesson, if there is in this, is just kind of going like, oh, I thought that was finished and that, something better had happened and we were moving into something else. But, we've gone right back and now I have back with the rash. And what if the whole world is like that? What if, we have this kind of feeling towards going into the future that life is never going to be the same again? And I feel quite positive about that. That's a good thing that we should, we've a chance here to do something nice. But what happens if we go back? Say the lockdown ends in a month and the world is pretty much, safe from coronavirus. Then you have to go back into your office and you go, oh, well, my boss is still an asshole. The guy I sit beside still bugs the hell out of me. Whatever, my parents, or my mother-in-law, or my mother, or whoever, you have this is still nagging me about certain things, or my wife, whatever it is. You just go back into the the same kind of world that you're always in, other than now there's, new measures in place to make it slightly harder, more restrictive. A bit like after 9/11, where we all suspected the world had changed, and it did in many ways, obviously. But the biggest kind of change that's kind of held over to it, apart from the people who were directly died or their families in fire. Apart from that, I mean, in a more global sense, the only kind of real change is that you have to take your belt and shoes off at an airport, and there's a bit more security and stuff, which is, probably a good thing. Not probably, it's a good thing that there's more security around airports. So, like, we're going in kind of thinking that the world is going to dramatically change, and I hope it does. And I'm very positive that we have a great opportunity to change the world in much more, to be a much better experience for everyone. I seen this morning that Spain is talking about keeping they're giving a universal basic income to people during the corona pandemic, in the hope that it will continue into the new world after it. So at least there's whether you agree or not with the basic, the basic wage thing, the basic income, at least it's movement. It's something changing, whatever. It's not just a return to the old ways, exactly the same. And I think that's kind of why I woke up this morning in a kind of depressive, and I was quite down when I woke up this morning. I have to be very honest about it, quite kind of depressed, and I was like, oh no, it's like, here it is, my eye's back, my depression's back, the world is going to, like, the holidays are over, this kind of, as horrible as it was, the pandemic, if this is over, and then we're just all returning to exactly what it was, and it's like, oh, I can't face that. I think that's what the trepidation, what the dread, what the kind of change in the force, if you want, or what things is this kind of sense of, oh, what if it goes back and it's exactly the same as it was, only slightly worse, where we kind of haven't learned our lessons, where we haven't, improved society, where there's no, where it's just basically, what if it's just all anticlimactical? And for the majority of us, again, not the people directly kind of involved in the thing, or directly kind of, not the people who died, or not, the people who actually had, there's a word that my brain just won't get to, who are actually directly affected by this. It's kind of the surrounding, like, no one I know has coronavirus. No one I know has died of coronavirus. And if the lockdown ended tomorrow, it would still be not a case that no one, I know. So it could seem, and probably will be, massively anticlimactical. And I think there could be a huge dip for people who suddenly have to return to the jobs that they hated, or return to the life that they hated. Only now it's slightly a bit worse, because they have this kind of, they were expecting either the world to end, and they had that adrenaline rush of to protect, or the flight or fight, and that this kind of high stress the whole time, to kind of return. Oh no, just do that spreadsheet, will you? And can you have it done by Thursday? And you're going, well, a minute ago I thought everyone in the world was going to die, and now I'm just back, working on a spreadsheet in an office I hate, surrounded by people I hate. Or the other thing where people were just kind of, feeling that things were going to get much better, and everything was going to work out, and not that I think everything is going to work out, but I mean that there was going to be some massive shift in consciousness. You see that a lot in kind of spiritual circles, that there's going to be a great awakening, and that's going to be hard if you go back into your office and have to do spreadsheets and go, well, no, it hasn't been any kind of awakening. So my fear, I suppose, and where I am at the minute, is this kind of sense of, what if it doesn't change? And like, obviously I don't want it to change for the worse, and I want to be as positive about the future as I possibly can going into it and all that, because that's just, I think it's a better way to be, and it's, ultimately having a negative outlook or having a positive outlook. I think if you have a positive outlook and you're wrong, you're still going to have a better time and a better life experience than if you have a negative outlook and you were right. So it's an interesting one. I like, the only thing I think what you can do, that's what my wife said to me this morning about it, is just worry about your own dial, worry about your own thing, and make sure that you have learned the lesson. With lessons are probably too much word. Maybe make sure that you gather the fruits from this period as best you can, so that you're not missing any opportunities for growth, for learning, for the future, and all of that, without trying, that meme of going around, you must be as productive as possible, and make sure you come out of this with side hustles and your life in order, otherwise you're a lazy person. I'm not saying that, but just as much as we can kind of capitalize on a personal level the experience and the learning and the camaraderie and the solidarity and the appreciation and the gratitude. And if we can do that all on an individual level, that when we return to the offices to do our spreadsheets surrounded by people we hate, at least we might be different, if the world isn't. Now, that all said, I suspect the world will be slightly different, and I'm still going to be positive about it because I had the feeling, the whole kind of overriding feeling the whole way through it, that something positive was happening within the kind of ostensibly negative events that were surrounding us. And I'm going to hold to it because I think it's a nice idea, and I prefer positive conspiracy, the negative conspiracy, and I get to choose that. So good people of the internet, I hope that hope I haven't added to the noise for you or anything. That's not my hope. Just trying to, just describe what's going on in my head, my thoughts, and what, in a sense, work it out for myself too. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around all of this and what you think. Was there a shift in the force at some stage over Saturday? Is that just the point in the timeline of the cabin fever setting in for, the mostly Irish UK people I was talking to? A few people, one person in particular from, Europe and stuff like that. You may guess who it is. Or what do you think? What's the kind of the fear, not fear, I don't want to use that word. What things do we have to look out for going back into the world, so that we can prepare a bit better for it and not be overwhelmed by the banality of it, or the mediocre changes, or going in and it has changed in a different way. When I get to the rambly stage, it is time to stop. So, good people of the internet, be safe, be well, be kind, be appreciative, be grateful, and may our best days be ahead.